What if your life was on display and there was nothing you could do about it?
Wonder with us. I'm Bethany,
I am still Connor.
and this is Wonder with us,
It is still a podcast.
talking about the Twilight Zone.
Have I called it the best podcast in the world lately?
You haven't?
It might be the best podcast in the world.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. We are talking about episode 25, The People Are Alike All Over. It first aired March 25th, 1960.
Directed by Mitchell Leeson, had 50 directing credits, one of which was an episode of The Twilight Zone. Leeson was a Hollywood director and costume designer whose work in the 1930s and 40s became widely recognized. Although his background was initially in costume design, Leeson made a name for himself in directing films, particularly romantic comedies and dramas. Some of his famous works included Midnight, 1939, Hold Back the Dawn, 1941, and Death Takes a Holiday in 1934. His contributions to the film industry were immense, and his work on The Twilight Zone showcased his versatility.
I'm really glad that we've started including information because I would have never known that.
I would have had no idea. I'd like a few months ago, I'd have walked away from this episode going, yes, I know so much about all of those people. Who directed it again?
Yeah. Yeah. And surprisingly enough, on that note, this episode was written by Rod Serling himself,
Brain Daddy.
whom we have never talked about.
Why would we need to? He's Rod Serling.
I mean, that's true. But he is known for being the creator of The Twilight Zone and is legendary for his work as a screenwriter, playwright, and producer.
Never heard of him.
Well, now you are. So,
Tell me some of the stuff he worked on.
So listen. Serling actually wrote 92 of the 156 episodes of The Twilight Zone, earning him a reputation for blending social commentary and science fiction with, fantasy. His ability to critique contemporary issues through speculative fiction was well ahead of his time, as we can see in many, including the episode we're actually talking about today.
Yeah, I mean, it shows up every time his name's on it, in reality.
I really enjoy the way that he meshes and blends things together. It's really good.
I suspect he may have actually had some say in other writers as well,
Oh, for
based
sure.
on the fact that there aren't a lot of episodes that feel out of place. It all feels like the Twilight Zone,
Yeah.
which makes me think they weren't just bringing in, Joe Schmo because they were a writer. It makes me think he probably had some say in the writers that actually came in on the episodes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he had quite a few partnerships with the authors that he brings in. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember the exact name of the episode because it's been a little bit, but the one with Millicent Barnes, Lady at the Train Station. You know what I'm
Yes,
talking about?
yes.
Okay, so that was originally written by a woman, and he partnered with her on that. So I have no doubt he continues to do that
To do that, yeah, that would make sense.
throughout this time. But People Are Alike All Over was actually based on a short story by Paul W. Thurman.
Never heard of that one either.
I don't have any information on him. I actually looked. I was trying to figure out what the short story was that inspired this, and there wasn't any information that I could find. But he was known for writing a few other series of the time as well. Like he contributed to other shows
Oh, okay.
based on his stuff. And Serling then took his short story and adapted it for the screen,
Interesting.
bringing, of course, his signature touch.
Yeah, I'll have to see if we can find some more of Fairman's work. I'd be interested to know what else he worked on. This one was edited by Fred McGuire, American film editor, born December 13th, 1889. in Massachusetts. He worked on a variety of projects from the late 1920s through the mid-20th century, including notable films such as The Well in 1951, Her Private Affair in 1929. I don't know why I just went through puberty when I said affair. He's also known for editing episodes of The Twilight Zone during its original run in the 1950s and 60s. This one
Sure.
that we're talking about,
This very one.
that he edited. McGuire passed away May 11th in 1975 in L.A.,
Wow.
leaving behind a significant contribution to the early television and film editing industry.
Wow. 1889 to
1975. Yeah, he was like 12.
It's crazy. He went through
At
like
least.
silent film era.
He went through the whole shebang. No, he didn't see DVDs.
Yeah, no.
He may not have seen VHS in 75.
And I think VHS came out in the 80s. Is that right?
Betamax, I think, was late 70s. I don't know. I was born in fucking 91. What the fuck do I know?
What does IMDb say?
IMDb gives us all the information we need on this episode when it says, and I quote, "When a rocket crashes on Mars, the surviving astronaut finds out that Martians are very much like humans, but with a sinister twist."
Dun dun dun.
Which we don't actually know. We don't know that they had a sinister twist. It certainly wasn't a great twist for our astronaut,
Yes.
but we don't know that the Martians were particularly sinister. I mean, if you think about it, are we sinister for putting monkeys in zoos?
Peter would say yes.
I mean, Connor would say yes as well, so I guess maybe the Martians are in fact sinister.
All right. Yeah, no. We'll get into that. I have
Will we?
thoughts. I have thoughts.
Oh, are we going to talk about this episode? I thought this was it.
Eventually.
Oh,
we'll get
weird.
there. Maybe.
We don't do that. I think we got another 45 minutes to kill before we're allowed to talk about the episode.
Oh, maybe we're changing the tides, huh?
Doubtful.
Roddy McDowell. What a name.
What a name.
Portrayed Sam Conrad, who was the surviving. They're not astronauts, though.
One of them, none of the survivors are astronauts.
But they weren't wearing the astronaut, gear.
No, but they didn't
Wasn't
need
wearing
it.
a spacesuit.
They were in the ship. You don't need a spacesuit in the ship. In the ship is pressurized with oxygen and whatnot.
But outside of it,
Oh, they didn't need that either, because clearly Mars is
like Earth.
just Earth in Roman and Grecian clothes.
Roddy McDowell has 267 acting credits.
I'm sorry. I admire Serling for the work that he did. I wouldn't have suggested starting a podcast about his biggest body of work if I didn't admire the man. But boy howdy, sometimes there were some decisions made that just make you go, was your budget $25?
Yes, actually, in the very beginning of his production.
Yeah, I know the early production, his budget was essentially a can of tuna and some mayonnaise. But
And mind, we are still in the first season.
we are still in.
So yes, this
Oh my
was
god, it doesn't.
very early on.
I keep forgetting that we're still in season 1. Like, the network hasn't decided to pick this show up yet.
So yes, darling, his budget was in fact very minimal.
Here's what you got for this month, guys. 2 cans of tuna, 1 jar of mayo, and some Roman togas.
Make it work.
Make us money.
Yes, Roddy McDowell was a versatile British-American actor known for his roles in Planet of the Apes, 1968, How Green Was My Valley in 1941, and The Poseidon Adventure, 1972. He began acting at a very young age and transitioned smoothly from child star to adult actor, which that doesn't happen rarely ever.
No, I'd be
Appearing-
interested to know if it happened more frequently back then,
Well, yeah,
when it was less public,
'Cause-
less publicized.
Hollywood was less Hollywood.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe.
He appeared in both film and television throughout his career.
And starting at such a young age makes the 267 acting credits make a little more sense. It's not typical for the actors we talk about for this show.
Right, unless they were just getting it.
Right.
McDowell was highly regarded, apparently, for his ability to portray both heroic and villainous characters. His role as Cornelius in Planet of the Apes became iconic, cementing his place in science fiction history. His role in The Twilight Zone was more understated, but equally as memorable. And I would say that villainous characteristic does come out towards the end when he's at the bars. There's something in the eyes.
Peaks, little behind the scenes glances at that. I will say, as Cornelius in Planet of the Apes, he was like, I knew this guy going in, which is again pretty rare for these episodes.
I haven't seen Planet of the Apes.
Well, thanks for listening, guys. It's been a good run. We had some good times. We never got a Christmas episode. Should have done that shit. Well, too bad. We'll see you next time.
What? Wait. What is happening?
Paul Comey played Marcuson.
Good.
He had 118 acting credits to his name. He was an American actor who had a steady career in television, appearing in shows like Star Trek, Perry Mason, and Gunsmoke.
Okay, but you did
We got 2 of the big 5.
threaten to shut down the podcast because I hadn't seen Planet of the Apes.
I don't remember that happening.
Sorry, go on. Continue. I just needed to make that clear.
He also had minor roles in films like The Towering Inferno in 1974. I'm not going to quit the podcast, guys.
Or shut it down, more importantly.
Well, I assumed if I walked away that you would just keep going without me.
Just keep rolling with it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I mean, last week, I think I threatened that you were leaving last week.
Nobody's leaving. This is continuing.
No, if anything, we're going to get a third host, somebody that we can really just dig at so that we can be like the strong power couple with the third wheel across the table that's always wrong about things. It's just an idea I've been pitching. Comey often portrayed military men and authoritative figures in People Are Like All Over. His character, Marcuson, plays a critical role in foreshadowing the dark twist in the episode.
Indeed.
Which is very accurate. He does. His character the character of Marcuson seems to have been written into this episode specifically to foreshadow the ending of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think one of his first lines in the first, at least in the first scene where we see him and he's talking to Sam, I believe one of his first lines is the title of the episode.
Yeah.
In People Are Like All Over. He does. They do an interesting thing with the writing there because it's not clear if he thinks that's a good or a bad thing. He states it very factual, but not in a way that makes you go, "Oh, he likes people," or "Oh, this dude hates people."
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very interesting. Well done.
It's a realistic take on humanity.
Yeah, people are like
All over. Susan Oliver was Tenia. Tenia was the prominent Martian woman in as we see Marcuson and Sam land. They crash landed on Mars, and they get out, and she's just kind of there with
There's a lot of them there.
2 other guys, but she stands out.
She does, being the only female, the first female we see in the episode.
Prominent female, blonde, wearing a Roman or a Grecian garb.
Yeah, Grecian.
For seemingly no reason.
I mean, we'll get to the dress code, but boy, howdy, guys, come on. At what point do we stop pretending like we're making an effort?
It's great. Susan Oliver had 103 acting credits in her career. She's an American actress and a director. Best known for her role in Star Trek, The Cage, 1964.
Can I cut you off for a second? It's so frequent that we come across an actor in this episode that you tell me is born in another country. And I have to go, boy, howdy, I would not have guessed that they were, say, French or British or South African or whatever the case may be, because their accent is so good that I don't realize they're not just from like Midwest America. This might be the first person we've come across that you said American actress, and I immediately wanted to go, no, she's fucking not.
Where do you think she's from?
The depths of not able to act.
Oh,
Ian,
you gotta cut her a little more.
I will, because it's Susan Oliver, and she was actually a fantastic actor
And director.
I didn't know she directed. I know she's a fantastic actor, but
You weren't listening to me.
I heard American and my ears stopped working because I got angry.
Sure.
Because I know she's a good actor. I don't know why she chose to act the way, like, I don't know if it was direction or she chose. We'll get into all this in a minute, but
She's a Martian.
right, but she's the only Martian that sounds like a Martian.
Yeah. The rest of them, I would argue, are bad Martians.
But they explain that we're hearing them the way we are because they're using hypnosis. So theoretically, if we assume the canon of the episode, she still sounds very slow.
I think our sample size is too small and you need to see other clips of her and other things.
I don't. I've seen her in other things. That's my point. I don't know why she came across like a high school media production actor in this, but that's not important.
Can I continue?
1964, was it?
Can I continue? Her appearances in the popular television show like The Andy Griffith Show and Peyton Place. I don't know what Peyton Place is.
Not familiar with that one.
She also pursued a career as a pilot and trailblazer for women in aviation.
I would have thought that was Earhart.
Way cooler. I mean, yes, Amelia Earhart was a pilot and was a trailblazer.
I'm just being confrontational for the fun of it. Feel free to ignore me.
I will.
Tell me more about Oliver, Susan.
Susan Oliver. Her performance as Tina in People Are Like Oliver was subtle but effective. I would agree with that because subtle but effective as a Martian. Her portrayal of the seemingly innocent and docile, might I say, Martian lady added a depth to the twist ending, highlighting her ability to play complex characters. Now, before we move on, for a case in point.
Okay, lay it on me. Make the argument for this blonde.
Twilight. I'm going to argue.
Are you bringing Stewart into this argument right now? Okay, first of all,
Hang on.
if this is about to happen, it can happen, but I need you to move that microphone like 3 inches to its left because we're about to throw plosives across this table at each other, and I want to be prepared for it.
I'm just saying.
Pretentious.
And hear me out.
Poppycock.
That I blanket statement, not calling out Stewart or any of the others. The
Candy Liss Pinata.
The cast of Twilight portrayed their Twilight characters brilliantly because it was bad. It was badly written. They all hated it. And yet they gave us...
I'm going to have to put a trigger warning on this episode.
And yet they gave us this performance that made billions of like preteen girls go bananas and stand in line for 3.5 hours for the premieres of these movies.
I'm not sure what your argument is because the acting in that entire series is, I would call it good. Now, you can dislike Kristen Stewart's acting style in that movie if you want. Plenty of people do, but the fact of the matter is the acting in those movies is good. I'm confused by your argument.
They're phenomenal. They're phenomenal actors.
Uh-huh.
Because they're portraying bad characters phenomenally. Therefore, I'm going to say that Susan Oliver is portraying Tina.
A bad named character at very least.
Brilliantly.
Okay, so is your suggestion the fact that she was handed a bowl of water and told to make it broth and all she had to work with was a rock?
And a Grecian dress. Yes.
You know, fair play. I'll give you that.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll give you that.
Go on.
Byron Morrow, I would argue, has the worst character name in this entire episode.
What is that? Tim?
Martian Leader.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I don't know. Leader's a pretty cool last name. Martian's a piss poor first name for
At
Martian.
least Tina had a name.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you named me Human Follower, that's a pretty piss poor name. He is a Martian. Why would his parents name him that? He had 128 acting credits to his name. Morrow was a prolific television actor. We seem to be using the word prolific a lot in the last few days, last few episodes.
Yeah, we got to fix that. Scale it back a little bit. It's a bit much.
But they're also prolific. Television actor, often cast in roles of authority. He appeared in Star Trek Mannix and The Fugitive. His fairly long career spanned the 1950s up through the 1980s, an early stopping point for the actors we deal with on this show.
Yeah. Well, you know, the ones that aren't born in 1883.
Even those ones, well, I mean, you know, if you die before 19...
Let's do the overview really quick.
Episode overview. Let's see. Scientist, astronaut, ship, crash, Martians bad.
Yeah.
Did I get it? Did I miss anything important?
Martians.
Oh, sexual tension.
I mean, there's always that
Tick.
somewhere. But Martians.
It's between Sam and Martian Leader.
Wonderful habitat. And then bad.
I did forget about the beautiful house on Mars. A house that I would argue is quite stunning.
If not for its lack of windows.
The lack of windows are bad. It makes me feel bad. It makes my tummy rumble in a way that I don't enjoy, and I need windows. Windows are good. They let in.
It gives
light.
a very distinct claustrophobic feel.
A house without windows feels like a closet. No matter how big it is, it's very boxed in. It's very closed, and it's not enjoyable.
Okay, so real quick breakdown. Their spaceship crashes.
We should clarify. They're astronauts. Moving on.
There's a crash.
You're welcome. I don't know what you would do without my brilliant insight on this show.
We'd probably get through it a lot quicker. Realistically. I mean, okay.
You're welcome, listeners. These episodes would be 11 minutes without me.
So there's...
Continue.
There's a crash.
Indeed.
We see Sam kind of pacing back and forth, and he's looking around. He's very concerned. He looks down and sees a hand.
Sticking up from a pile of rubble.
And that is how we, one, learn that there was a crash,
Yes.
and two, learn that there's only potentially one survivor. Except
That pile of rubble was a mattress.
Marcuson was in fact alive, but feigning dead. I was very confused by the acting in this particular moment.
Yeah.
Because I thought he was dead.
It's because he was dead. And then Sam shook him, and he ceased being dead, but was not conscious. He was just groaning and moving a lot. So Sam pulled out an unidentified vial of something and mainlined it directly into an artery, as far as I can tell, based on how quickly it worked.
And then just gave him a nice little arm massage.
Yeah, just
to
gave him a
make that
sensual
work.
little arm massage to make sure that the blood was all flowing, because nothing does it better than a massage. And then suddenly he's awake again. Not in good shape, but awake. And talking. Until he is in fine shape.
Mm-hmm.
Until he tries to stand up, and then we realize, oh no, he's not in fine shape. So he sleeps for a couple hours.
Needed a fainting couch several times.
I am confused.
It was very quick, and granted, we've been through this before because of the length of the episodes and what they had to cram with what they were working with.
I'm pretty sure I said I wasn't going to bring this up again, but 23 minutes is not long enough to tell a detailed story.
He's
You
leaning
just
against
have to pull so much context out.
Leaning against the door. Not well. and then says, I will be well if you can just help me up. I just want to go outside because Sam is afraid. Sam doesn't know what they're facing, so afraid to go outside, doesn't know what's happening. And Marcuson is the astronaut.
And I would argue they both play these parts very well.
Very well.
It is, the pacing is confusing
I agree.
through this bit,
Yeah.
but as far as getting across the message that Marcuson is an astronaut, he wants to go outside. He wants to see the place that they put on all this work for to get to. He wants to go outside.
He specifically said he wants to see what he's dying for.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not well, I'm very hurt. I want to see what all this fuss is about. Like, where's your adventurous spirit?
Where's your scientific curiosity? Didn't you
Yeah.
bring that with you, Sam?
Right.
And no, he didn't. He didn't at all. He needed to stay back on Earth at a computer, apparently.
But he didn't. He was on Mars. And so he said, you know what? I'll be okay if you could just help me up so I can go outside. So he goes over, he picks him up, and does this like half lift, and then Marcuson just kind of wilts like a flower without water.
Like a sack of potatoes.
And
Yeah, it's just...
and then dies. Just done.
Yeah, I mean, he talks up through his death. He does have living time to finish his sentence, which was unmemorable. But yeah, the pacing is just weird. The pacing is super weird through this whole accident scene.
And then suddenly the door that would not open, or at least that Sam was
Sam was
complaining,
insisting that it wouldn't open. It was Sam that opened it.
It just looked like it just opened.
No,
Did I miss that part?
He reached up and hit
the button?
Hit the button
I
above the
didn't
door.
see the button. I thought he was talking about the door not open. See, it was cooler in my brain that way. It had not known that because I didn't know that he didn't open the door. I didn't see that part. I thought the Martians opened.
Oh yeah.
See, that would have been cooler.
No, he hit the button before grabbing a gun to defend himself against the black back screen that was on the other side of the door.
And then he's greeted with Martians.
Yeah, Romans and ancient Greek civilizations.
To be fair, that's just their clothing and really
It's
bad
so
crew cuts.
Damn dumb. Like of all the,
Of all the
if there's a
available costumes.
reason, if there was a reason to put them in ancient Greek and Roman regalia,
Togas,
that's
specifically.
fine, but fucking tell us the reason.
Yeah.
And if there's not a reason to do it, fucking put them in jeans.
Yeah.
Put them in suits and slacks.
Tracksuits.
Tracksuits. Make them all used dealership owners.
White tracksuits, specifically.
Like, whatever. Just. It is specifically pointed out that these people look at humans as Martian-like creatures with similar biology, but a super underdeveloped brain. Fine. Why did we develop pants? Why did we figure out zippers?
I mean,
If yo ass is in a bed sheet,
maybe though.
super advanced Martian.
Maybe though. They're going for comfort over style, in which case they've won.
I would argue they win with style too.
They're not wearing pants.
I would give anything for it to be socially appropriate for me to walk around in a fucking toga. That sounds awesome.
Except in the winter.
There's just no, even in the winter, if you're in some places, there's just not a reason. They just tell me. Just tell me why they're in togas.
They don't, in fact, tell us. They continue to move on.
In case you were curious, they don't tell us why they're in fucking togas. I just got to live with that information now. And so do you. Sorry. Spoilers.
Not sorry. Not really.
No. Misery loves company, and company loves togas.
So they then lead Sam. Well, the Martian leader gentleman walks over to the
Please,
spacecraft.
Martian leader. The Martian leader gentleman was my father.
Walks over to the spacecraft and says, "Yeah, the other one's dead." Like just
Oh yeah,
announce
there's
it
so little emotion for
bluntly.
these Martians.
The second one's dead
Except for Tina, who is
And-
nothing but emotion for the entire episode.
in very few lines.
Yeah,
Even.
very little dialogue, but a whole lot of emotion.
Yep. which I would argue that's a thing she does very well.
I would argue Kristen Stewart does as well.
Well, you got to give her a couple takes and she'll get it.
You're just such a hater.
I am. So they said, don't worry, we'll bury your friend. No worries. But here, we have something provided for you.
Yeah, they
Creature comfort's a place to stay.
Timeline, they pull the body out. They say they're going to bury the friend. Then they tell him to get some rest in the ship, and they're going to find somewhere for him to sleep. He's very interested. He spends this entire a little bit of time just really wanting to like see their civilization.
Yeah. Now
like
the curiosity
yeah, his scientific curiosity seems to come back at this point, which is nice to see. He's a less irritating character.
Because he has this very open epiphany when he walks out of like, oh yeah, Marcuson was right. You guys are like me.
Y'all are just like me, just human like me. This is all kind of wrapped around his immediate lust for Tina, which is just blatantly visible from the moment he steps out of that fucking smashed ship. Like, he sees her, and it is just doe eyes immediately.
Yeah. Like, she's the most gorgeous Martian he's ever seen.
Of the available 5, she's the best looking one of them. I'll give him that. I just don't know that traveling millions of miles, crashing your spaceship, losing your friend, finding out that there's oxygen on Mars and that you're being mind controlled to speak their language is the best time to be worrying about whether or not a Martian's got a vagina, you know?
And some people do online dating. Who are we to judge?
All right, you know what? Fuck me, fair enough. When I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I ain't afraid to admit it.
You know. So they prepare a place for him. And he goes, and this is where we walk into the house. And
this is where they show him the place they prepared for him overnight.
Sinister, yeah, they make a point of mentioning, we did this last night for you.
Mm-hmm. Based on your very clear thoughts.
Yeah, which isn't creepy or sinister at all.
No.
Speaking of sinister, the lead Martian and the other Martian guy that we don't have a name for, who's just
Martian leader.
Yes. The Martian leader.
Just think of it like a name.
The secondary dude, who is also Martian.
Yeah, the one that's clearly
along with Tina.
Yeah, Tina's handler, it seems.
That is what it does appear to be. Yes. They both keep, like, the whole time Sam is, like, conversing with them, they keep, like, very not slyly looking at each other and giving each other the side eye of, like, we know something he doesn't know.
You could not hear a single line of dialogue from this episode, and when you get to the point where these three are talking and those looks go back and forth between Martian leader and other dude, you would immediately know the entire plot an idea of this movie just based on those two's like interactions with just their eyes,
silent interactions.
Yeah, it is just so very blatant. They're like, this dude's an idiot, he is falling for this 100%, and oh boy howdy, we're gonna make millions at the amusement park. Like it is disgustingly obvious.
They've got the cat that got the cheese. Or the cat that got the cream. Cat that got the cream. It's mouse got the cheese.
Cats probably eat cheese. Mice eat cheese and cats eat mice. That doesn't necessarily track though, because like
it's the cat that got the cheesy mouse.
Want, like, chicken feed. I might try cheesy mouse.
Just saying. Anyway, that's the look that they give each other.
Yeah,
throughout the whole thing.
Their entire time on screen together is just them.
Can we talk about the house?
Yeah, let's talk about the house. It's perfect.
It's great. It really is. It's great. Except for the lack of windows. Which is not, and this is very good on the camera guy's part, is not immediately noticeable.
I didn't notice until the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And even once they got into the kitchen where it becomes obvious there's no windows, I didn't immediately notice that that's what was wrong.
Yep. But something was very wrong.
Something was wrong with it. And you get this immediate, like, at least I got this immediate, like, clearly something was up. Like watching it this time, I can't honestly say I didn't know what was going on. Obviously, I've seen this episode before, but I do distinctly remember watching this one for the first time, and I didn't know what we were looking at from a plot standpoint. So it wasn't until they got in the kitchen and I got that weird feeling of like unease for some reason that I really started to be like, okay, this isn't what it seems like. And I can appreciate watching it now how little of the plot I actually knew going in the first time.
Yeah.
Mine the first time was a very long time ago, but yeah, it was. I think watching it if I was able to watch it for the first time again today, I think it would probably still be that point where I really went, oh, there's something wrong. Because there's something about the way that kitchen, when we finally see the back wall above the sink,
where a window should
be, and it's just a blank wall. I didn't realize that that's what was wrong with it. What was wrong with the kitchen? It really feels like that's the heater. It really feels like that is the moment of, at least for me, that was the moment of there's a twist. Like there's a sign, there's something pointing towards not what I expect.
Yeah.
Sam didn't notice.
He didn't notice.
He's a new dude on a new planet, though.
And they keep looking
and
at
so
each
starstruck.
other back and forth.
Love struck.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have the hiccups.
It's okay.
After you, I'm gonna wait for the
hiccups
to pass.
For sure. So we go through the house, and going into the front door, Sam leads the way. They insist that he leads the way. He walks through this front door. And as he walks through the front door, you see three very distinct stylings. The decor. These three very distinct eras of American decor.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, kind of a walkthrough timeline, where the living room area is like a mid-century modern, and then the dining room is definitely like turn of the century with the old-fashioned light fixture and the table.
Something you might have seen at Stonehurst Asylum.
Yeah, very. To
in a common room, maybe.
Throw that back. And then the kitchen is what they would consider modern for the 60s.
Yes.
So a viewer in the 60s would be like, wow, this is state of the art. This is wonderful.
Can I say, I fucking love that kitchen.
I knew you would.
I fucking love that kitchen.
Is it because of the big boxy fridge?
I love me.
I know.
I love me a 50s, 60s fridge.
I know.
There's something about a big round fridge that just tickles me the right way. What really got me, though, was the 2-burner stove that had nothing else.
Right.
Just a freestanding.
It was in the countertop.
It was in the countertop, but there were no dials, there were no buttons.
Yeah.
It was just two electric
burners.
No, sorry, not 2 gas burners.
Just there.
Nothing else. It's just at the end of the run of countertop.
Yeah.
Like where a breakfast island would be, was his stove. I love it. I absolutely love the simplicity of that kitchen.
That there was no microwave.
There weren't any appliances.
Except for the fridge. There was a fridge.
There weren't any countertop appliances, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was the fridge, the sink, whole helping of usable counter space, and a 2-burner. It's the 2-burner stove. It's so efficient.
Are you having high school flashbacks?
We don't talk about Bruno. Our stove had 4 burners. It was not efficient. It's 2 burners, making the stove the same width and depth as the fairly, admittedly, skinny counters.
Sure. But if you cook, 2 burners is not enough.
I disagree. I made pancakes this morning using one burner.
Again, if you really cook, 2 burners is not enough.
He's one dude on an alien planet. He's not cooking for a wife and kids.
Yeah, that's fair. He wouldn't be anyway, really, of the time.
No, and frankly, like we don't know that he ever cooks. All we know for sure is that he smokes a cigarette and drinks some scotch.
Yeah, the best scotch he's ever had.
The best scotch he has ever had, and a filterless, unbranded cigarette.
So in this wonderful kitchen, he backs up. And that's when we see the wall where the window should be. And that's when we realized, oh, hey, what's really wrong here? Oh, yeah, we pinpointed it. There's no window.
Mm-hmm.
And then he notices it too. Okay, so this is great because of, like, drawing the viewer in. Because we noticed. And then Sam steps back and is like, interesting. Then he goes over to the door in the kitchen, the corner of the kitchen.
Yeah, it would probably lead outside or into a garage or something.
Something like that. But it definitely is, and you can tell, and this isn't just set work, because quite frankly, the set was amazing.
It was better than some that we've seen. It's damn sight better than the spaceship.
It's quite frankly just a wall with a doorknob.
Yeah, it looks like the door is carved out of the wall.
It's not even, like, there's not even, I would say they just kind of painted it to give it some shadow. But it's literally a doorknob in a wall, which he realizes when he goes over and tries to open the door and the handle doesn't move.
And boy, howdy, he does not take kindly to that.
Right, but he also, as far as reactions go, he didn't freak out.
Not initially. Not at that door. It wasn't really until he got to the 2 doors off the living room that he really started freaking out.
This is after he had his scotch and the cigarette.
Yes.
So
the cigarette that he very dangerously lit on the gas stovetop.
Indeed.
Which nobody should do.
Ever.
It's
a good way to get your hair burned.
So dangerous. We don't talk about Bruno.
So he then realizes, okay, there's no door here. He runs back through to the front door where they came in.
Yep.
Tries that. We, as the viewer, in this century and decade, get to see the whole wall move.
The entire wall. The entire 2x4 A-frame wall. Just
rattles.
Rocking as he yanks on that doorknob.
And then he goes over to these, quite frankly, gaudy and huge curtains that are in the living room, where we would also, again, have windows.
Which he compliments. He complimented them drapes. Yeah. And they are hideous.
They're real bad. Not even in black and white, they're real bad. Mm-hmm. The busiest and most nauseating pattern.
There's a lot going on.
It's real bad.
Which, if there was a window behind it, so when you opened it, it would be bunched up at the sides and the light would be coming in. And they might not be so bad.
They would still be bad.
They wouldn't be good. I think they'd be less unappealing if they weren't covering the entire wall.
And had a window.
Yeah. Which...
Again...
No, there's no window.
Our need for windows.
He does manage to rip the drapes off the wall.
Yes.
Including the hanger rod.
Quite violently.
Breaking a lamp in the process.
It was satisfying.
Which sparks ominously. I don't reckon that was intentional, but it was enjoyable.
I missed the spark.
Yeah, when he pulls the rod down, he hits the lamp off to the right and breaks the bulb and it just sparks. It's real fun.
It's dangerous when you have shag carpet.
Which I assume was pea soup green.
It had to be.
Or violently orange.
Of the best. So anyway.
What I would give for pea soup green shag carpeting.
I had that once.
So did I. That's when I fell in love with it.
That's great. Ours was avocado green.
Avocado?
Yeah.
I do like me an avocado.
So he pulls the curtains down. Mm-hmm. And what should be a window is no window, and he's now panicking.
Yet another wall.
Yelling like, let me out of here. What is going on? He's losing
It's a lot of what's wrong with you peoples. Throws out a lot of what's wrong with you peoples.
After there is, in fact, a window that opens. It rolls from the bottom up.
Yep.
And he's standing in what we know as a cage. Because there are bars where the window should be.
And a crowd
of these fabulous Martian people.
These
of all
fabulous
ages.
Roman and Grecian Martian people.
Just staring at him. And he does what any frightened animal would do. Goes up to the bars. And then it's like, what's wrong with you people? What is happening? Let me out of here.
So this is when we get what I like to call the Twilight Zone freeze, which I don't know if you've noticed this yet, but anytime during this show, especially in season 1, that there's a frame that they want you to really focus on for a moment, rather than pausing the camera on that frame, they will get the shot into frame and then they'll still frame the shot rather than like running tape on a long paused shot. And a lot of the times it works fine.
Yeah.
Due to the quality of the film, you can see the grain stop moving.
Yeah.
Which is a little disconcerting if you're, at least for me, if I'm paying attention, I'll see that grain stop moving, and we have garbage Wi-Fi, so I just kind of assume something has gone wrong with technology every time it happens.
Yep.
In this case, Sam's foot is still in the shot, which really emphasizes we've
This is
taken
a
a single
picture.
frame out of this tape
Yeah.
so that you can really read this sign that reads human
In its natural habitat.
in its natural habitat.
Yeah.
And now we know the plot.
Yeah.
He's
He's in a zoo.
they put him in a cage. I think the most interesting part of this episode for me is Rod's outro.
Yeah.
In reality,
I like the last line though, because it leads
Sam's?
into Sam's
Yeah.
last line that leads into Rod's outro of him finding his way into the Twilight Zone. But he said, it brings it back around. Like, you see this man in the span of 20 minutes go from elation to finding out that these Martians are just like him.
Marcuson, you were right.
They're like us. They're human, like us. And then that has a different ring to it when he says it again, standing behind bars, watching people watch him. You were right. People are alike all over. Sinister commentary on society.
It's actually really frustrating because what he says is people are alike everywhere,
Yeah, which isn't the title.
which isn't the title of the damn show.
It bothered me all the way through. It did.
But no, it's interesting because we get to see the Martians in this shot. When he gets close to the cage, they back away in fear, the way that kids might if a tiger got too close to the bars.
Yep.
It's very well done.
Yep, it is.
Meanwhile, the entire time, Tina is in the back with her handler, just looking miserable before she finally storms away.
Because she knew.
Yeah, she knew the whole time. Everybody knew except for this dumbass human. It's for an episode of The Twilight Zone, and I'm probably going to be angry with myself later for saying this, but it's a lot of surprisingly good acting for an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Can I step back really quick to
No, we don't do that here.
the still frame you were talking about?
Mhm.
Because I was trying to think of what other episode they did this in most prominently. And the one that I remember the most, though, was Third from the Sun,
Yeah,
where the three guys, also astronauts,
also on a foreign planet.
land, and they're walking across this bridge. And it's the bridge shot where it's like perfect, and the grain is grainy because it is like it's so subtle, but also like you notice.
Yep.
It's
I think we
very-
actually talked about it in the episode.
We did. It's quick, but it's like, oh hey, there's a picture,
Yeah.
and now we're back to moving frame. There's a lot of that
And
here.
it's every time, both of those times, and I don't know if it's happened every time, but I know that in both of these instances, they emphasize that still frame with music. Like the music hits or crescendos on that moment.
Yeah.
Really driving your attention to it.
Yeah.
Which
Rather than straying away from it.
which
is
is,
interesting.
it's an interesting take, and I don't think I imagine that a still frame rather than wasting tape was probably standard practice.
Well,
Because
yeah,
if you're just gonna
working-
roll tape, like you're wasting money.
if you're on a can of tuna budget.
Right, which I think we can all agree on. But I assume that was just standard practice for anybody in the industry that was trying to save
Yeah.
save a penny here or there.
Be smart, conserve.
Right, stop. Get your shot in frame, make sure everything's in focus, and then take that frame, and you can drag out that long pause as long as you need to. Throw some dramatic music over the top of it. Boom, bam, boom. You got yourself a Dracula moment.
And there
Like,
we go.
It works. It's just it's jarring.
Yeah.
You know, coming as a viewer who is accustomed to high quality digital
Well, and
video.
it's an interesting choice to make when they have the ability to successfully pan and like zoom in on people's faces. Because they do that a lot to emphasize emotion as well, where they'll zoom in real close on somebody's face.
Yeah, just ignore everything we know about the golden ratio and just really look at somebody's pores.
Well, they tried. We have the technology to do that now.
Pores, film grain, artifacts, whatever it is we're looking at.
Gross. Which
But
favorite moment?
they certainly I think they should have done that in this case on the sign. I think a slow zoom would have emphasized, like, would have driven their point home better than a still shot. I think a slow zoom in on that until it just about filled the frame, because then when he reaches down to grab the sign, his fingers could come into frame as he grabs the sign.
Yeah.
And then you could back the camera off and show the rest of him reading the sign and coming to realize what it is that's going on. And
I agree.
I think that would have been a better moment, but
that would have been very cool.
it's also 2024, and I've seen a lot more film than Rod, if I had to guess.
Yeah, considering he's dead, probably.
I meant than he had seen then. Are we sure he's dead?
We're sure he's dead, yeah.
Well, now I'm sad again. You asked my favorite moment?
I did.
My favorite moment. My favorite moment is the time between Sam opening that bottle of scotch and Sam trying to open the door in the kitchen.
Okay.
Seeing somebody who has just suffered what most people would consider a fairly traumatic incident in crashing a spaceship, essentially holding your friend as they died, then finding out that there's alien life, going through a fairly traumatic bit of incident over the course of what on screen is about 6 minutes. To see the joy that man falls into, like how quickly he falls into his own peace.
The wide variety of emotion.
It's the lack of emotion in that moment that really gets me.
Okay.
Because he's very emotional leading up to that. He's very emotional after that. During this moment, it's this calm before the storm of peace, where he's just enjoying a glass of scotch, enjoying a cigarette, unbranded, unfiltered. It is a beautiful moment of peace for Sam's character that we all know is about to come crumbling down on his head.
Yeah.
It's not a particularly interesting cinematic moment or anything. It's just
No, but
it's a very humanizing moment
Yeah.
for the character.
it's
and I
calming
enjoy
in
it.
that
It's very calming.
because it's familiar.
Yeah. And that was definitely
And I
it's
think
an odd favorite part of an episode.
No, I don't think
but-
so at all. I would agree. It's pretty good. And it's pretty good in that because of that wide variety of emotion, the fear, the elation of finding out that they're just like him. And then, oh, hey, I have this place and wow, this really looks like home. I can settle in here. And then
how quickly he does.
Yeah. To have that moment of peace before finding out that, oh, this is my life now. Like, I'm not getting out. This is where I'm spending the rest of my days. Pretty wild. Yeah. I like that. I like your take on that. It's pretty good.
What about you? Is it the toga?
I mean, which part of the toga? They're everywhere. No, I'm also really glad that they didn't hand him a toga. Say, one of us, and hand it through the bars. But my favorite part, I think, is that switch, is that realization when he's leaning on the bars and like repeats himself, yeah, people are alike all over. Because I think that is the most sinister statement of anything that occurred in this.
Especially in this episode,
In
yeah,
the episode.
100%. That is really the nail in the proverbial coffin is his very rapid descent into acceptance.
Yeah.
And it is one of the things I'll say that while there are parts of this episode where the pacing feels forced, as is the nature of an episodic television show.
One of 24 minutes.
Right. There are definitely spots where the pacing feels forced and feels unnatural. What was his name? The guy who played Sam, McDowell. Roddy does an amazing job of making intense emotional changes
Very
feel real, despite their speed, despite their pacing.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, he's a fantastic actor. I don't think he had a lot to work with in this episode, and I think he made a lot with what he had to work with in this episode.
I would say it's genuinely prolific.
Yeah, did we use the word prolific for him? Because if we didn't, we sure didn't. Of course not. We did say he was versatile, and that's fair enough.
It's on brand.
I don't know if talking about the general takeaway is necessary. I feel like this is one of the few episodes where the takeaway was entirely what they intended the takeaway to be. At least for me, it's people suck.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, people are people, no matter where you are. If there are people, they're going to be people.
And people are very people-y in their suckiness sometimes.
You could even say that people are alike.
All over.
We should use that. It's a very unique, original idea we just had. All right, let's hit this marble rating.
Uh-huh.
This is going to be the shortest episode in like 7 years.
Score. You're welcome.
Don't worry, I will derail the next episode twice as many times as I normally would, just to make up for it.
Good. Yay. I'm gonna give this a 3. It had a good message. It was good.
It's an episode.
But it's an episode. Because it's the pacing, mostly. And not even that that's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just this is not one that's going to stick with me.
So I'm going to give it a 4.
Like Time Enough at Last. It's not up at that quality, I don't think.
No, I mean, no. But so few are. I would give this one a 5 if it wasn't for the pacing and the togas. I should take away 2 marbles, one for pacing, one for togas, but I'm gonna drop it to a 4 because I can get over the togas. I can understand the
budgetary constraints.
My problem, and even the creative direction, if that was an intentional choice. But
with the togas, it wouldn't bother me so much if they were all the same. But some of them have zippers, some of them have ties, and it really
one of them's got like a kilt style, like 2-inch wide leather belt.
From a costume designer standpoint, it's very...
I'm sure somebody had a very specific idea as to why that was a good idea.
For sure.
And in the original script, it may have even been listed as to why they were in togas. We as viewers are not privy to that information, and therefore it feels off-putting and kind of haphazardly thrown together, and that sucks.
Yeah.
From a viewer standpoint. Like that, it kind of blows to see anything that feels like it was a last-minute decision.
Mm-hmm.
Like the extras all showed up and they were wearing too much modern clothing, so they just busted out a Foot Locker of whatever they happened to have 30 of. And it happened to be fucking cut-up bed sheets with Roman iconography along the trim.
3 days prior, and this is what the extras had.
Right, this is what happened to be on set, or whatever the case may be. But in reality, I can get over that. The pacing is jarring in a few spots. Their use of stock footage of the spaceship as it's launching was actually fairly well done for what they normally do. They clearly got their hands on some better footage. It wasn't your typical 40s Foley alien spaceship that sounds like a tornado from Wizard of Oz.
It didn't have the wee-woo.
It didn't have the wee woo. It was actual footage of rockets taking off, whether they were full size or models. I don't know.
Doesn't
I
matter.
couldn't
It was
tell,
very
but
cool.
it looked much better than it usually does for things like that. There's a lot of good about it. There's a lot of good about this episode. The pacing was the big one for me. Is that there were just too many spots where the pacing was jarring.
Yeah. Abrasive.
Mostly the entirety of the post-crash inside the rocket ship scene was just
A lot. Right off the bat.
a lot really quick.
7 marbles it is.
Christ, I got a 7 rating. Whew,
I gave it a 3, you gave it a
we need to
4.
start being more harsh on these fucking episodes. Like,
You need to start being more harsh.
maybe I do. No, don't worry. We're getting on the we're tipping into the back half of season 1. My ratings are about to start plummeting, which is good because come season 2, I'm gonna be hard pressed to give anything under a 5.
All right.
I'm gonna have to figure it out. You bring anything to the table this week? We should name this segment
We should name this segment.
something other than show and tell, because show and tell is always what like pops into my head. It sucks. We're not showing anybody anything.
No, you can't see any of this.
Let me show your ears something.
Show your ears.
Show your dude.
I like it.
This segment. Okay, I'm gonna add that. This segment is now called "Show Your Ears."
Oh, what am I going to show your ears this week? Very fond of the non-Stanley branded 40-ounce tumbler.
Okay, you can't just say non-Stanley. Give us a brand name. What is it?
I don't, it's not branded. I have no idea.
It's not branded at all.
not.
It's just an unbranded
It is an
Stanley knockoff.
Yeah. And I don't even know if it's a knockoff. It's heavy duty. It is my favorite purchase that I think I've ever made. It was way too much money because I got it in a gift shop.
Well, I mean that does come with a 200% markup.
It was. It was probably twice what the actual Stanleys are going for. But it's cool because it has a little logo on it that isn't like a branded logo. It's like the logo of the place that
No,
was
it's
at.
very kitschy. Like, welcome to our mom and pop shop. We had somebody screen print these on the tumblers.
Yes. And the reason I like it is because it harkens back to like summer camp, and I never went to summer camp, but it's a very summer campy design.
It has a very Pacific Northwest summer camp logo
and
vibe.
that makes me very happy. But it is my favorite drinking vessel currently.
Isn't it on the coffee table 8 feet behind you? This thing is enormous, guys. Like, do you know the name of the store? Where it was at? Anything? Like,
It was this little resort town in California that I went to. It was a couple months ago. It was just their little gift shop that I wandered into and found it and thought it was cute.
fair play.
But no, it is the only way that I'm staying hydrated these days. So you should find something similar because it's worth it. Stay hydrated, peeps.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that, mostly because Liquid Death comes in large cans. And while I'm not bringing Liquid Death to show your ears this week, I will say, yo, Liquid Death. Sponsor, homie. Pretty sure I'm keeping your lights on at this point. Oh, my God.
He does drink a lot of it. It's true.
It's delicious. It's a problem.
You are hydrating, and that
I
makes
am
me happy.
hydrating, and I have no reason to believe that flavored carbonated water is less hydrating than anything else.
It's water. I'm not complaining.
Right, yeah, there we go. This week for Show Your Ears, which I am loving the name of, I'm bringing a YouTube channel
Okay.
called Sorted Food, maybe?
Yeah, you told me about this.
I feel like an ass because I don't know if food is part of their actual name. Give me a second. Need to make sure I'm bringing... This week for Show Your Ears, I am bringing a YouTube channel, Sorted Food.
You've told me about this.
I have. This is
Is this the one where they cook or they review foods?
all of the above.
Okay.
So they It is a food and cooking dedicated YouTube channel, which is four, five, six.
A few.
There's a core group, but there's a boatload of them, who they do everything from walkthroughs on best ways to make use of spices in everyday cooking. They do gadget reviews, which are always delightful. That's everything from crowd-funded kitchen gadgets that have the potential to be, kind of life-changing in the kitchen,
Sure.
up through
TikTok's latest thing.
yeah, up through TikTok or Wish type stuff. They don't do a whole lot of that, but they also do a series of antique kitchen gadgets where they'll just get in like some of the oldest shit, like hand churn butter churners that are like designed to clamp to your solid wood countertop and be cranked for 97 minutes to separate your butter.
That's
and
cool.
They'll just use the things and then give their assessment on whether or not this is like worth it, or if you should just pick up a $20 stand mixer, whatever the case may be. As well as they have an app that quite literally, like, you can plan a week's meals.
So it's like a meal planning app?
So it's very much a meal planning app, but it's set up in such a way. I've been using it because I suck at this stuff. So you literally pick like your week's worth of meals, and it will generate a shopping list for you.
That's cool.
Based on those meals that will essentially tell you what to buy and how much of it to buy.
Oh, so it does give you quantity.
It gives you quantity specifically so that what you buy at the beginning of the week, you have used almost every bit of it by the end of the week.
See, that's really smart. I do utilize a lot of meal planning type apps. None of them give quantities.
So that's the part that really got me, was the, like, first of all, food waste sucks. Like, it's a problem, and
it's a big problem here.
It's a big problem everywhere, which I didn't realize, but apparently in the UK, where these guys are based, it is every bit the problem, and it's a huge thing they want to deal with. It's a huge thing they talk about, and they have contributed a lot to people who are attempting to minimize food waste and bring awareness to it, and their app is a big part of that. In that, this is not a sponsor segment, guys. I'm just a big fan. It quite literally, like, the amount of money you save, time saved, and thought saved is pretty impressive. And yeah, it's straightforward. Like, they walk you through the steps, like on audio. They will just walk you through the steps on the recipes and things like that.
So it's really good for like first time cooks or people who don't cook very often.
Yeah. I would even argue that it's good for like experienced cooks who just want to simplify their like weekly meal crap.
Yeah.
Because it's such a stress. At least it's always been stressful for me. Like, I've spent so much time looking for ways to simplify meals, because I don't want to spend the stress energy. I've got enough things to stress about. I don't want to stress about food too.
Right.
And this was one of those things that has made it like it's an afterthought now.
Is there like variety on their meal plan?
Huge. Hundreds of recipes.
So it's not like buy X amount of this stuff and then eat the same meals for 5 days.
No, and that's the really cool part, is that you can pick different food lifestyle. Like, they've got vegan options and your standard meat, none of the kitschy fad diet crap, but no, it's very much like, I want these 3 meals this week, or these 4 meals this week, and it is, they generate the shopping list, so you just buy what you need for those, and then you use up all of that crap by the end of the week.
Very cool. I'm gonna have to check it out. That's not an app I have. So.
No, it's worth checking out. I think they're still doing like a 30-day free trial on it as well.
Cool.
Before you have to pay for it. At least they were when I grabbed it.
30 days is quite a bit of time.
Yeah, I mean, it functionally gives you 4 weeks to
try it out
and figure out if it's going to work for you. Again, not sponsored, just a fan.
I like it.
And a fan of what they do.
Go check them out. And get yourself
it
a nice
super helps that they're fucking hilarious.
non-branded 40-ounce tumbler.
Yeah, so that's Sorted Food on
I like
YouTube. They're hilarious.
That's cool.
Everybody on that channel is hilarious.
Good.
Give them a sub.
Next week's episode is episode 26.
Execution. Sounds ominous.
I still haven't seen that episode all the way through. I've seen the first 5 minutes of it.
I gotta pull up a screenshot. I don't remember hardly any of these by name. This episode's wily.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Let me read you what IMDb says about it real quick.
Yeah.
We'll go over this again, but IMDb says, when a 20th century scientist tests out his time machine, he accidentally retrieves a murderer from 1880, saving him from the hangman's noose. Unaware of the man's history, the scientist attempts to acclimatize him to his new surroundings. What that should say at the end, that should end with, and it ends badly.
Okay.
Because obviously that's gonna. So literally, the episode starts with the dude hanging, and then he gets poofed out of the noose just before his neck breaks.
See,
End
that's the only part that
episode.
I've seen of it, so I'm excited. Okay.
Yeah, no, it takes all of the twists and turns that an episode of the Twilight Zone will take when given the opportunity to do so.
Very cool. I've been Bethany.
I'm still Connor.
Thanks for wondering with us.
We'll see you next time.